Please rise for our seniors.
I invite all but the graduating seniors to be seated for a recitation of the Windhover by Gerard Manley Hopkins. I caught this morning, morning's minion.
And off for a swing, as the skates feel sweet blue on the boat. A whirling light, we love the big wind. My heart and I is stirred for her. The Yeshiva, the mastery of the thing. Ruth, beauty, and valor, and act, all hair, pride, blue, beer, buffalo. And the fire that breaks the knee then, a billion times so lovely, more dangerous, oh my chandelier. No longer sheer blonde makes cloud down silly shine, and blue bleak embers, my dear, all themselves in actual relief.
Seniors, you may be seated. Good afternoon. I'm Headmaster Washburn, Heather Washburn, Headmaster of Veritas Preparatory Academy, welcoming you here this afternoon to our 15th annual commencement ceremony, a ceremony for the graduating class of 2021. I know that many of you have come here today to hear me speak, so I hope you are not too disappointed when I limit my remarks to the essential items that I have to say in preparation to introduce our commencement speaker, Dr. Victoria Ntulongwe, our salutatorian, Peter Schillinger, and our valedictorian, Michael Shiras. You see, last night I learned something, that our students far outshine me when it comes to public speaking. We had two of our students, Mr. Van Brunt and Ms. Tawny, who spoke at the 8th grade graduate or promotion ceremony last night, and quite impressed the audience. There are a few points that I need to share with you this afternoon. The first is our purpose. We stand and sit here today at a commencement ceremony to celebrate the successful completion of an arduous and noble course of study. A course of study that is liberal in nature. Liberal in the classical sense, a course of study meant to liberate the mind, and in so doing, free the student to achieve the chief end of man, which is happiness. Veritas exists to provide this educational opportunity to each and every one of our students. An opportunity chosen for our students by their loving parents or guardians, yet an opportunity that must be accepted. The student's choice is the key to the achievement of a goal of a liberal arts education. For each student possesses a will, and without the will to choose to learn, the liberation of the mind through study, contemplation, conversation will not occur. It is only through a decision by the child to learn that he or she will become educated in the truest sense of that word. Before us today sit 68 students who chose to pursue the good of their classical liberal arts education. They chose to read over 50 great books in humane letters classes and in foreign language classes over the course of their 4 years of high school. These students of the class of 2021 chose to learn from their studies of Euclid, of economics, of algebra 2, of calculus, biology, chemistry, physics, Greek or French or Spanish, music, drama, and art. And because each of these 68 students demonstrated the fortitude needed to successfully complete their course of study, they sit here before us, soon to be graduates. And even more importantly, they sit here having learned what it means to be human. And this is a far more important lesson than any other we might ever hope to teach them. During a recent thesis defense, Mr. Nider asked a simple yet supremely significant question. What is the benefit of learning to read? The student wrestled with the question for a time. He then came to a new realization. By reading, he met Frederick Douglass. Not someone's interpretation or an image or an imaginative vision of Frederick Douglass, but Frederick Douglass. In his own words, sharing his own thoughts, allowing the students and all of us who have the privilege of reading Douglass the same opportunity to meet with him, to learn from him and to talk to him. The story of his suffering, the vision of the possible, and the hope of the eternal are found in our relationship with Frederick Douglass. The lesson of our shared humanity is what sets Great Hearts education apart from all others. I am so very grateful for each one of the graduates who sit before me this afternoon, and all that they have accomplished and all that they will accomplish. Class of 2021, please rise. The second point is I want to talk about the people who have supported our graduates over the course of their time at Veritas. Parents, to be Great Hearts parents is to become, let me re-say that. To be a Great Hearts parent is to be a parent who sees past the present moment to the future of his or her child, who sees to the hope of the eternal rather than the limits of the temporal. For their own testimony, few of these graduates would sit here today without your love, your support, and your steadfastness in their lives. The road to graduation is not an easy one, and yet, as you have seen this year, the investment into such an education is the maturation of your child, not only into an adult, but into a friend who possesses wisdom, courage, temperance, justice, and charity. As you well know, the maturation journey is not easy. There are tears, there's laughter, there's pain, there's joy in the course of raising a child, a course that is wrought with challenges, and at times without a clear or defined destination. On Thursday, my rhetoric students and I have to say that teaching rhetoric this year in one of the most challenging years I've ever led a school was probably the thing that gave me the courage and the hope that I needed to face all that we faced this year. Spending time with students learning together fed my soul in a very unique way. So I want to thank my rhetoric students for that opportunity. And on Thursday, we sat and we were reading, and then we listened to, and then we discussed Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s final speech, the I've Been to the Mountaintop speech. It takes place the day before his assassination. In the midst of our discussion, something I have been trying to put into words for most of my adult life came into clarity. When are we mature? What does it mean to be fully formed as a human being? In the speech, Dr. King tells the story of the Good Samaritan. He provides very practical and, some might even argue, prudential reasons to why the priest and the Levite might not have stopped to help the injured man on the side of the road. He argues that they might have asked a question, that they might have asked, if I stop to help this man, what happens to me? And then Dr. King turns the thoughts of the Good Samaritan who came by, explaining that the Good Samaritan reversed the question. The Good Samaritan asked, if I do not stop to help this man, what happens to him? As I read and I heard and I listened and I discussed these words again with my students, the chief end of man, the fullness of our humanity seems to be answered in the question we choose to ask. Dr. King calls the Samaritan's question dangerous unselfishness. And unselfishness, the fully formed human being possesses because he or she knows his worth, a worth that allows the individual to have the confidence to see beyond the present moment to the good of others. We, as Great Hearts parents, have not stayed Great Hearts parents because of our focus on scholarships, ACT scores, SAT scores. We have stayed Great Hearts parents because we believe there is something more to education that we want for our children that can only be found in a classical liberal arts education. The path to true happiness. Thank you for your partnership. Especially this year, it has meant so very much to us. And your partnership in the great task of educating your child. Parents, please stand. And seniors, let's faculty. In our work as teachers, we know that the chief end of life, happiness, is the goal that we too share for our students' futures. Our part in their lives is to provide them with the opportunity to learn, making learning homely, making it desirable by pursuing two courses simultaneously. The course of loving what we teach so deeply that we inspire our students to love what they are learning, and the course of loving the children we are privileged to teach so that they feel safe to learn. Each of you pour out your knowledge or expertise into the lives of your students. Our teachers sit here today tied indelibly to their students through the mystic cord formed through learning with another human being. Your dedication, faculty, to what is one of the reasons that these 68 students sit here before us today at this special ceremony. Faculty, please rise. And the third item that I have on my list of important things to share is the introduction of our commencement speaker. Today, we have the great privilege of being joined by Dr. Toyin Atalogbe, my dear friend and the headmaster of Great Hearts Academy Archway, Lincoln. Dr. Atalogbe, as a young girl growing up in Nigeria, spent most of her teenage years volunteering at her auntie's elementary school and helping her mother, an elementary school teacher, in her class. Dr. Atalogbe's background plays an instrumental part in her passionate commitment to education. She has a bachelor's degree in English language and English literature with minors in linguistics, history, and philosophy from the University of Ularu. You can correct me later. Nigeria. In 2008, she completed her master's degree in education with a concentration in early literacy development from the University of Lethbridge, Canada. As she progressed in administrative leadership in 2018, she graduated with a doctoral degree in educational leadership from Grand Canyon University. Dr. Atalogbe joined Great Hearts in June of 2011 as a second grade teacher at Archway Trivium, where I had the great honor of meeting her for the first time. She and I would often find ourselves waiting in line at the only copier in the school to make copies for our classes. From those brief meetings at the copier, we began to form a friendship that has lasted for a decade in which we both grew in our love for classical education and in our service to students, families, and faculty as headmasters. In the summer of 2014, she moved to Archway Arate as a dean of academics. In 2016, she joined the first headmaster college class for Great Hearts and began her journey as a headmaster in training at Archway Lincoln. In the summer of 2016, becoming the headmaster in 2017, and remaining in that role since then. Driven by her genuine love of children, she takes pride in her work as a headmaster and as a mother. Both of her children attend a classical school. Her son, Tony Atalogbe, who I had the privilege of meeting as a third grader, is a senior as well, and he will soon be graduating. And she has a daughter who is in sixth grade at Arate Preparatory Academy. Her resume is even more extensive and impressive than what I have just shared. Yet her resume is not the reason that I have invited Dr. Atalogbe to speak. Toyin is one of the most genuine people I have ever had the pleasure to know. Her integrity is without question, with her words matching her actions. This is the reason she is so highly regarded by the families of Archway Lincoln, and this is the reason her students grow, not only academically, but more importantly, morally. Dr. Atalogbe believes with all that is in her that the best education for the best is the best education for all. And she stands with Socrates in her understanding of the importance of beginnings. Her leadership exemplifies the understanding that is needed by us all as we, parents and teachers, lead our children, an understanding that says the foundation of the cultivation of the minds and hearts of children through the pursuit of the true, the good, and the beautiful starts with the beginning of their education. For the beginning is the most important part of any work, especially for young and tender things, for that is when they are more malleable and able to take the form of virtue. Please join me in welcoming my friend, Dr. Toyin Atalogbe.
Good afternoon, seniors, parents, faculty, and all family members. Like Heather said, my name is Toyin Atalogbe. I introduce myself sometimes as a servant of Great Hearts. I serve the Archway Lincoln community as headmaster. What a privilege to work with young children. I really want to begin by congratulating our seniors. I do not underrate the effort and the dedication that you all have put into getting to this point. And you should be very, very proud of yourselves. Because if you do not know, I know of several people that did not make it this far. They gave up along the way. My son is a senior at RT Prep. He will be graduating on Thursday, and he had friends who dropped out, like literally dropped out. And so moms, dads, aunties, uncles, grandparents that are here, this is a big deal. But this is just the beginning of greater things to come. And so I want to thank you all, moms and dads, for supporting your children. I'm also a mom, and I know it wasn't easy. Having to memorize the Gettysburg Address, reading books from Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, so many times my son will come to me and say, Mom, I just don't get this paragraph. It's too hard. And I tell him, read it over and over and over again. And he will come back the next day and say, Mom, you were right. I didn't get it yesterday, but I'm getting it right now. The whole idea is that we just don't give up. We keep trying. So I really want to thank you, parents, for trusting Great Hearts. You made the best decision for your children. And I can assure you, you will reap the fruits of your labor. Because these children, I have no doubt in my mind that they will change the world. They will make a difference to their generation. In a broken world, graduates from Great Hearts are the leaders of tomorrow that will make a difference. So we thank you, parents, and I thank you, teachers. I know that it's not easy to be a teacher in this present day and age, but you will come back every day. On those hard days, you go home and wonder, do I want to continue doing this? The kids were all rowdy in class today. The student disrespected me today. I can't do this anymore. And then you wake up in the morning, the alarm clock goes off, and you get up and you do it again. It's simple. Your heart is in what you do. And so parents, let us not take the hard work of our teachers, our faculty, our administrative team, let us not take it for granted. It's not an easy job, but we love our jobs. Like Headmaster Washburn shared, I grew up in Nigeria, Africa, and I had the privilege of attending a classical school too. The only difference is that it wasn't free for my parents. They worked very hard to send me to a classical school. I have a genuine love for mackerel fish because it was the most affordable kind of fish that my parents bought for us, and we ate that over and over again. But my dad would always say, I will not compromise your education. You all must go to great schools, because I don't know how far you're going to travel. If life's journey takes you away from the shores of Africa, I want you to be functional human beings. It was almost like a prophecy. I didn't grow up thinking I was going to live in the United States of America. It was life's journey that brought me this far. And so on this job, people ask me, how did you become the headmaster of such a great school when you did not have your early education in the Western world? My response is always that the pursuit of truth, goodness, beauty, it cuts across race, ethnicity, geographical location. The great books you read, they are time-tested, and we have found them to be valuable. It's liberating. It doesn't matter where you are. If you can just open those books and you have teachers who nurture and cultivate your minds, you can make something of it. One thing that we have all learned this year is that we can all do hard things. The pandemic, When you started in high school or middle school, did you ever imagine that in your senior year there would be a pandemic that shut down the whole world? No, we didn't know that, but it came. And guess what? You all pulled through. There is always a period of turbulence, but there will be a period of calming peace. I am grateful for the emergence of calm that has fallen upon us in the last few weeks. And as you all graduate today, I am very proud of how you've endured during this pandemic year. There are 4 principles I want to share with you that has impacted me on my journey, and they are principles that I learned by virtue of the fact that I also had an access to classical education. The first principle is this: do not be afraid to toil and labor for success. For in labor lies dignity. Our success stories materialize when we have learned not to flee from hardship, but confront it with courage. Sadly, life is not going to ever get easier from this point. I wish I had something more interesting to tell you. It's going to get harder. But I'm borrowing this wisdom from Theodore Roosevelt, who said, "I wish to preach not the doctrine of ignoble ease, but the doctrine of a strenuous life, the life of toil and effort, of labor and strife, to preach that the highest success does not go to the man who desires mere ease, but the man who does not shrink from danger, from hardship, or from bitter toil, and who out of these wins the splendid triumph." Who was this man, Theodore Roosevelt? He was born with a lot of health issues. He was asthmatic, he was nearsighted, he was sickly to the point that his parents had to homeschool him. But as he grew older, he picked interest in bodybuilding. And as he toiled every day, he learned from that experience that your beginning does not determine your end. It's the effort you put into building yourself that determines what the outcome will be. This experience became the inspiration for his strenuous life, one of his best-known speeches on April 10th. This speech has impacted my life in indescribable ways. The first time I read this speech, I was in college. I was taking an American history course where I had to look for a speech written by a United States president and present it to my class. And my life has not remained the same because it helped me build this mindset that I need to work hard and things are not going to be easy. Growing up in Nigeria, I don't know if you are familiar with growing up in another country or in a developing nation. Growing up in Nigeria wasn't easy. It was tough. My dad said I was a pretty smart kid. And so I went through elementary school, skipping 2 grades. I think I may have skipped 2nd grade and 6th grade. And so by the time I went to high school, I was just about 10 years old. And so my dad said, "You know what, you're too young." Our parents would send us to the boarding house, and my dad said, "You are too young to go to a boarding house." As a matter of fact, I actually started. I got lost, and Dad said, "You know what, I'm going to make you a day student. You come back home, about 6 hours away from home." And I did my 6th grade from home. But guess what? By 7th grade, turning 11, my dad said, "Pack your things, it's time to go to the boarding house." I wasn't very excited about the boarding house, just for one reason. I was a picky eater. I don't eat eggs. I'll eat boiled egg, but fried eggs, no. No cheese, no butter. Think about it. What am I going to have for breakfast in the boarding house? But my parents said, yeah, go along, go. My dad said, the point is that you will figure it out. The first few years were rough, but eventually I figured it out. I would trade my breakfast for a quarter or a third of my friend's lunch or dinner. The problem with that is some of these kids are crafty. After eating my breakfast, when it's time to give me a portion of their lunch, they disappear. And so, instead of crying over spilled milk, over time, I started learning to solve these problems. I drew up a contract. Right? You take my breakfast, but you will give me half of your lunch. And it worked out. After a while, I didn't care about breakfast. Breakfast is never on my mind as well. I don't eat breakfast because that was how I was trained by my circumstances. And so over time, I started learning how to beat these crafty people. I drew up a contract, I made them sign, and it started working out. That's tough. Just to get an education, I had to go through all of that. But I didn't go back home and say to my parents, I don't want to go back to school again. It started becoming exciting. You figure out how to solve a problem, and then there's another thing. And so it wasn't an easy life. People ask me, did you just learn how to speak English when you came to the United States of America? No. I learned to speak English as early as 2 years old. It was hard because I have my own native language. I have my mother tongue. And I remember in elementary school, our teachers would tell us, if you speak your native language and your name gets on that list, your parents have to pay more money. And so my dad would say, as you're going to school, you better speak English, because I don't want to pay more money to the school. It wasn't an easy life. That did not deter me from studying and giving my best at school. It's never going to get easier. As we move on the next chapter, we will do hard things. That's who we are. Think about the pandemic. Eric Twist, the big decision to go back in August. That wasn't easy. But guess what? We led the way and we did it. I was afraid. I didn't know anything about this crazy pandemic. What if I got it and I died? My kids are young, they need their mom. But we did not allow that fear to overcome us. And it takes me to my second point. Under fire, you choose courage. When you embrace a mindset of toil, hard work, all you need is moral courage. Aristotle described the courageous man as dauntless. He's fearless, incapable of being subdued or intimidated. That's Eric Twist. He's such a great leader. Like, Eric is just fearless, right? A courageous man is dauntless as a human being. He will fear what is fearful, but he will endure it in the right way and as reason directs. For the sake of acting nobly, that is the end of virtue. I love how Alexandre Havard expatiates on Aristotle's wisdom. That courage is not taking that bold step. For some of us, we have to do something and you tell yourself, oh yes, I'm going to do it. That's one dimension of courage. The boldness, the audacity to take that step. I think it's the easiest dimension. The harder dimension is the part of endurance. The fortitude to stay on course. the faithfulness to not give up, a mindset of long suffering. I'm sure the faculty, the administrative staff, you are happy. This crazy school year is over now, right? But you endured, you hung in there. The fortitude to bear pain during hard circumstances. And so, my dear friends, seniors, when you think about courage, don't be mistaken. Courage is not just taking that bold step. You need the endurance to finish that great work. Many people choose courage over fear, but they do not endure long suffering. Please don't be like them. The next principle, Nelson Mandela, the man I love so much, former president, he's dead now, president of South Africa, freedom fighter. He said, I learned that courage is not the absence of fear. A brave man is not he who does not feel afraid. A brave man is that person who chooses to triumph over their fears, no matter what. And that takes me to the third point, the fear factor. Acknowledge the fear factor. It's real. Fear is real. When you do hard things and choose to be courageous, fear always wiggles its way into the equation. So how does fear fit in all of this? When I joined the Headmaster College, Dr. Scoggin had encouraged me to join the Headmaster College, saying you'll be great in leadership, and I joined the Headmaster College. I had a personal coach who kind of walked me through the process, and during one of our meetings, he asked me, he said, Tony, what are your fears about becoming the headmaster of your school? And I'm like, my fears? I said, my biggest fear is that as a woman of color, am I going to be good enough? And he looked at me. He said, Tony, you're someone. You have so much confidence. I would never have imagined you had that kind of fear. And he looked at me and said, that fear is valid, but we need to get rid of it. Moms and dads, our children's fears are valid. Please do not belittle the fears of our children, of our loved ones. The fear factor, it's real. How do we overcome our fears? Aristotle said it's important to fear the right things for the right motive and in the right manner. Aristotle promotes fearing the right things. Plato said it's important to know what not to fear. So we need to fear some things, and then we do not need to fear some things. Knowing the right things to fear, what not to fear, begins with magnanimity. A very elevated vision of yourself. You have to know yourself. Don't let people tell you who you are. Know yourself and just be yourself. When you know yourself, your fears will respect you. If you don't know who you are, your fears will manipulate you. I do have a love-hate relationship with fear. Love in the sense that I feel like my fears sometimes it protects me. But some other times, I just feel like it's out to destroy me. And so I have trained myself to have internal dialogues with my fears. And what does that sound like? I'm sure you're wondering, what's she talking about? I'll explain. I love going to work at 7 a.m. on Saturday mornings. It's my favorite time of the week because I get work done. My kids sleep late into the mornings. They probably don't get up on Saturdays until about 11. So I rush to work. And one day, I'm always the only one there at that time when I go. And one day, as I pulled up, there was a car behind me. And I heard that voice of fear say, that's odd. There's a car following you into the school. You need to be on your guard. And I'm saying to my fear, okay, what should I do? Do I just turn back? And fear is saying, no, just park and wait. Okay, I'm waiting. And then the guy just drives right past me, and I'm like, that was close. Oh, he's not after me. And then I hear my fear say again, come on, Dwayne, you need to follow him in case he's going to park in the back, and he's going to come back and get you. And almost immediately, I'm like, okay, what do I do, fear? What do I do? Follow him, make sure he gets out of the school. I reverse. I'm listening to my fears and I'm going. And this guy probably just missed his route. I was trying to get out, but my fear is pushing me into this state. And I followed the man. I just wanted to make sure he gets out of the school so that I can be safe and go in my office. And all of a sudden, I just saw this guy drive out of the schoolyard. My crazy fear said, no, Twain, you can't work this morning. Go home. This guy's going to come back and get you. He's playing tricks. And my mind is racing. And at some point, I'm like, shut up, fear. Stop it. This guy missed his route. That's why he's here. I'm not going to go back home. I have like 100 emails waiting for me. And so I circled right back, parked, I went to work, looked at my emails, and it ended right there. And that's why I said, you have to have those internal dialogues. You have to learn to keep your fears quiet. You listen to it, you speak to it. I don't tell people to shut up, but I tell my fears to shut up all the time. And there are times I go, shh. So the fear was trying to protect me. In that moment, I felt protected. But at the next moment, it takes advantage. The moment fear feels, I'm in this protective mode, it takes advantage if you don't have control over it. Let your knowledge of self help you live the truth of self. That is the way you overcome your fears. Don't be afraid of your fears. The last principle, in all of this, it's going to be a tough journey. We know that. We are great hearts. We do hard things. We're going to show courage through it all. Even when we fail, we'll keep going. The fear factor. We will be cognizant of our fears. We're not foolish people that say, no fear, it doesn't exist. It exists. And it's not there. It's in here. It will protect you. It can also destroy you. It can deter you from achieving your dreams. So build a relationship with the voice of fear. Speak to it, listen to it, keep it quiet. Don't hesitate to say shut up when it becomes overbearing. Because that's how you take control of those strong emotions. The last thing, seek joy in what you do for yourself and others. In the midst of your toil, find time for leisure. I don't mean you should sit on Instagram and Facebook. That's not That's not the kind of joy I'm talking about. And I'm not saying you can't be on social media, right? When you're on social media and you notice that Dylan hasn't been, the last time Dylan showed up, your friend, on social media was a week ago. That's a good thing. Pick up the phone and give Dylan a call and say, hey, where have you been? You haven't been on social media. You don't know what Dylan's going through. And Dylan's like, I'm having a hard time right now. I'm having a hard time. Things are happening at home. You know what, Dylan? Let's go hiking. Find joy in the midst of the toil. Talk to people. Spend time with family. Spend time with friends. But go back to your toil. Take time. Take a break from it. Life is beautiful if we understand how things work. And so as I wrap up my message, be careful not to pursue joy in the wrong places, because then you're going to get in trouble. And remember, our teachers, they've put in a lot of effort to raise you because you truly believe that you are the leaders of tomorrow. Your parents have put you in this beautiful school because they believe that you'll make a difference. I love how Martin Luther King Jr. talks about it. He said, every man must decide whether he will walk in the light of creative altruism or in the darkness of destructive selfishness. It can't be me, myself, and I. Look at all these wonderful people. How much they pour into you. Enrich someone else's life. It can't be just about you. Do good for people. Volunteer. In conclusion, I want to go back to my friend Theodore Roosevelt. He said, far better it is to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered by failure, than to take rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy much nor suffer much, because they live in the great twilight that knows not victory nor defeat. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred with sweat and dust and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes short again and again, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and spends himself in a worthy cause, and who, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. You have learned about what is true, good, and beautiful. We're counting on you. We trust you. I have no doubt that a graduate from Great Hearts will lead this country someday. Some of you are going to be senators, and you're going to be people of integrity. You're going to work very hard. Some of you are going to find the cure for cancer. Some of you are going to travel to space and help improve technology. Some of you are going to save lives when they call, make that 911 call. You're going to be there to help. Remember, with moral courage, knowledge and understanding of what to fear and what not to fear, one can toil, labor to the point of success. And amid our toil, we can achieve joy by the things we do for ourselves and others. I wish you all the best in your next chapter. Thank you.
I am honored to introduce our salutatorian, Mr. Peter Schillinger, who has demonstrated himself to be a student of highest academic and character distinction. Most importantly, as Mr. Neidiger describes, Peter consistently seeks firsthand knowledge of the truth and aims to help others do the same, and for this he is beloved. Please welcome Mr. Peter Schillinger.
I don't have the charming accent of Dr. Otto Galbe, and my speech is kind of long. I'm going to be to Michael as Everett was to Lincoln, so get comfortable. I would say the senioritis really started to kick in the second semester. Not to say it was not at all prevalent before then. Mr. Austin seemed to have caught the bug even in the first quarter based on how many physics exams he returned. But the second semester is really when the disease started to take hold. The symptoms began to manifest themselves subtly. The once familiar calculus worksheets that Dr. Bailey handed out became more and more infrequent. Miss Calvert and Mr. Austin's habit of walking around the room to check for homework completion halted almost completely, not as a COVID precaution, but from fear of discovering no one had done the homework. But our lack of homework completion cannot be blamed on the countless hours we spent memorizing our lines for drama. Ms. Vogel, who at one point told us we were to be off book after spring break, began to fully understand the intricacies of producing a play on Zoom. Namely, that without fellow actors on stage demanding eye contact, we had the odd habit of allowing our eyes to wander from left to right, jumping back to the left. Coming to understand this, Ms. Vogel mercifully decided to put a scanned copy of our script on Google Classroom and let us read it from it during the play. One day, Mr. Austin, the man who makes calculus seem easy with his brilliant explanations, after having explained AC generators only to be met with glazed student stares, went as far as to say that it was from our lack of focus and not his explanation to account for our poor understanding. I could go on, but I will not because I'm rather self-centered and want to describe my own senior year affliction. Although not entirely, I largely was saved from the detrimental effects of senioritis because I had the opposite outlook. If senioritis is the laziness which comes from just wanting to be done, then senior depression is the sadness which comes from not wanting high school to be over. I could and still cannot bear the thought of leaving everyone and everything I've learned to love here. Miss Calvert gave us these weird little dried Mexican plums as a senior send-off gift the other day. And she said it was going to be like college, a new experience. And I'm not a picky eater like Dr. Adogable, but the plums were disgusting. They were terrible. So what is Mrs. Calvert saying about life after Veritas? How was I to prevent, or at least prolong, this inevitable plum? My solution? To drink fully from the cup of life, to appreciate the sticky little leaves that Veritas has to offer as thoroughly as I could. And I think a part of me honestly believed if I did this, the end would never come. So I listened in on Mr. Seifert's class during break, pestered Dr. Williams in the garden, harassed Dr. Bailey during lunch. But what a fool I am. Calculus and physics will still be there after I graduate. If I could go back to my rising senior self, I would convince myself that the people at Veritas are what makes it so special, not the curriculum, which is what I'm going to convince you all of right now, hopefully. The people are what makes Veritas so special, not the curriculum. The ideas in Mr. Ward's Physics 1 were amazing, but you know what was even better? His exuberant personality, which manifested itself by spinning a ball around a string in the classroom and then allowing it to fly off tangentially, narrowly missing a few students before slamming into the whiteboard. And this loud character contrasts with the quiet little man here from Blessed Sacrament. You think Spanish class is so great because of El Cid? Miss Calvert, I really am truly sorry, but of all the old books I've read here at Veritas, El Cid was without doubt the most boring. Some of our HL texts are amazing, some are great, but I have trouble imagining that I would be half as inspired in HL without Mr. Neidiger's relentless act of love, which he shows by truly listening to his students and exudes around to everyone. Unless your name is Tyler on the DC Metro, in which case he tells you to get lost. Mr. Austin spoke during Micah's tribute speech about the students' perception of him. So I told him afterwards that I had heard many students, granted mainly female students, describe him as cute. To this he said, well, I'm sure my gray hair helps. But Mr. Austin, that is not what I nor what they meant. The girls do not think of you the way Jackson Zook thought about Mr. McIsaac. It is because there is some inherent goodness residing within that is so uncommon we normally only see it in innocent youth. I've heard the same remark of Mr. Ward and Dr. Williams. As Veritas has attracted good people as teachers, so Veritas has transformed its students into good people. I'll leave it to Michael to go into personal characters, as to avoid speaking specifically to my experience at Veritas, but I will say in the 6th grade, I would have been hard-pressed to mention a few periods I found agreeable. And now I would not be able to name any I find completely disagreeable. Like Yvonne, I understand love of one's neighbors at all to be miraculous. But unlike Yvonne, I know countless examples of this miraculous love through the good people at Veritas. For me, you people are the most convincing proof of Alyosha's and Zosima's understanding of the world. Mr. Austin tells me I'm wrong about happiness being selfish, that a prerequisite for loving your neighbor is loving oneself. And although his proof of this relies entirely on his authority, I immediately accept it, because if there's anyone I'm going to be willing to accept as an absolute authority, it is Mr. Austin. So in what way do Veritasians love themselves such that they are able to love others so well? I say that we indulge ourselves by sitting around and talking about our feelings for 2 hours every day. And I mean this not as criticism, although I do believe it may be taken as such. Feelings need not carry such a negative connotation. After all, it is the opinion of the immature schoolboy who does not understand his place in the cosmos to only respect math and the natural sciences, and to therefore be so disdainful of feelings as to label them sentimental sloth. If you are an atom, then all you need is physics, and perhaps mathematics to describe this physics. But if you are a person, then all you need is love. No matter if love has nothing to do with the truth of the universe, if it is just nourished with little tails throwing perception onto reality, if it is just a feeling. People need HL and therefore love because they are human. Because the mystery of human existence lies not just in staying alive, but in finding something to live for. And you best be going to HL to find this meaning, because nobody fabricates it better than Mr. Nediger and Mr. Cipher. We are able to give our love to each other so well at Veritas to others, because there is no meaningless void inside of each of us, which is what makes our school so good. But perhaps Mr. Nediger would accuse me of only remembering in the superlative, remembering only the best parts of our Veritas experience. That I would not be so sad leaving if I properly remembered the more grueling aspects of student life at Veritas, like studying music theory, or the demeaning bathroom log. But you must know, Mr. Nediger, that there is nothing higher or stronger or sounder or more useful afterwards in life than some good memory from childhood, and that this memory is the best education. Jim Burton's memoir would be nothing extraordinary without his romantic disposition. So allow me to be romantic as well. But not just in order to write a compelling memoir, but because I really do feel this strongly. The past 7 years make up the greater part of my conscious life. At the risk of sounding terribly pathetic, Veritas means so much to me because in a very real sense, it's all that is to me. It's all I have. I can confidently say leaving will be the most difficult task in my hitherto carefree 18 years, because nothing will ever be the same afterwards. Perhaps you think I'm just being pessimistic, but it seems to me pessimism is all too often indistinguishable from realism. Mr. Nediger is not in contact with any of his high school peers, nor Dr. Bailey with his graduate school friends, which he spent 10 years with. And although I hope none of us will fare so poorly, I cannot help but to come to understand the painful truth that our relationships will never be the same if they continue to exist at all. Friends, what we are now facing is death. The death of the community, the death of individual friendships, the death of life as yet we have led. And that wasn't even supposed to be a joke. Montaigne and Socrates can offer us no consolation because they only give us strength to not fear our own deaths, not to live on with the suffering that death leaves behind. Augustine would advise us not to love one another ardently, but just lukewarmly in order to avoid such suffering. But I beg you to not listen to this counsel, for nothing is more despicably reasonable. The Bible and Dostoevsky would console you by saying the corn of wheat must die to bring forth fruit, but it is infuriating because it suggests that it is a good thing the corn of wheat die, that it's a good thing Ilyosha die, that is a good thing I'm leaving all of you. And perhaps it is just fear, but it's not as much fear as it is sadness. Nothing could be more offensive to my current emotional state than suggesting that it's a good thing I'm leaving Veritas. And so it seems I'm unable to offer any consolation, but I'm too busy mourning the loss myself. Maybe Michael can help us.
One of the teachers of our Valedictorian said that he is a rare student who seems to already understand the delicate balance between knowledge and wisdom and the appropriate time and place to apply or disapply, either or both. Known for his humility, Michael Shires is well respected among his peers as well as his teachers. It is with great joy that I welcome him to speak to us today.
Thank you, Mrs. Washburn. Good afternoon, everyone. It's moments like these, while standing in front of a large crowd of friends and family, and delivering an important message, that one learns something about himself. Well, what I've learned today, with my poorly crafted speech in hand, is that I probably should have taken rhetoric. Now, even though a rhetoric class would have been useful, I do not need it to express my thanks and love for this school. Having entered as timid freshmen, we now depart as mighty seniors, bursting with knowledge of math, science, history, literature, Latin, Spanish, French, and even ancient Greek. To all my peers, I want you to be aware of what a great gift it is to be as prepared as we are for whatever comes next, because not every school offers such an advantage. Nowhere in our curriculum will one find a course of study that does not deepen our desire for understanding the good, the true, and the beautiful. We have truly been a part of something unique that has shaped us into something better. Sense of wonder and depth of inquiry. I'm sure we've all seen those somewhere on our evaluations, or heard teachers lecture about their importance. But only now, as I look back on my years at Veritas, do I fully understand why they matter. Each class, each book, each topic was meant for something greater than itself, and it was our job to find it. There's an old Latin phrase that I think encapsulates this idea. Non scholae sed vitae discimus. We learn not for school, but for life. But what have we learned? We've learned that we should all stand as Atticus Finch passes by. We've learned that while ancient Greek is hardly spoken, it speaks to us. We've learned that Mary Shelley was right. Nothing we create is perfect. We've learned that e pluribus unum should be heeded now more than ever. We've learned that for both us and Raskolnikov, the crime is the punishment. We've learned through special relativity that the world is not always intuitive. We've learned that the road to freedom for Frederick Douglass and us all is knowledge. And who better to help us reach these conclusions than the Veritas teachers? You know, Einstein believed that it is the supreme art of the teacher to awaken joy in both knowledge and creative expression. That is what the incredible teachers at Veritas have done for me and you. You know, I always knew our teachers cared about us and their work, but it was not until senior tribute night that I understood the full extent of their love. Whether it was Miss Calvert's roasts or the heartfelt speeches of Mr. Dick, I could always sense their passion and desire to see us all succeed. I know that any one of us could come back to Veritas sometime in the future and talk with the faculty, not as a student to a teacher, but as lifelong friends catching up. Furthermore, I hope that all us graduates will remain friends, no matter how far away we are from each other or how long it takes for us to meet again, because the experiences and memories crafted here transcend any arbitrary limits. I'll always remember the times I shared with all of you. Devin, Ian, and Jake. I'll never forget our relay winning our first state championship. Mason, I'll never forget attending your court of honor as you received the title of Eagle Scout. Evie, Grace, Lisa, Ron, and especially Sarah, I'll never forget the things you said that made me burst out with laughter, even if you didn't mean for them to be funny. Austin, I'll never forget the incredible movie nights you put on. Ted, I'll never forget how every Wednesday you would come up to me and ask, Mike, what day is it, Mike? And referencing that old Geico commercial with the camel, we would both shout, hump day. Subject, I'll never forget our discussions in between classes about topics ranging from your favorite meme to the political tension in Poland. Peter, I'll never forget the time you showed up to a swim meet wearing your swimsuit and goggles, which under most circumstances would have made sense, but you weren't on the team. And I think you just wanted free admission to the event. I could go on and on about each and every one of you, and I'm sure you could all do the same. But I'll get to the point and say that we have a special community here. In the future, when I look in the yearbook, I'll see more than just your name and picture. I'll see family. Earlier, I brought up how we are shaped to be better here, but now it is up to you to hold that form and retain its integrity. Let us go into the world, into new environments, but let it not change our form. Let us never forget Veritas or what it has taught us. And most importantly, let us remember each other. Today, we depart Veritas. We will never leave it behind. Congratulations to the class of 2021. Thank you.
So justified fear is having to follow two gentlemen like that. Dear graduates, a convocation is when we offer our last official remarks before you receive the highest honor Veritas Prep can offer you. I'll be brief because we cannot wait to get those diplomas into your hands. I just want to give, as a man who's had 7 students come and go from Veritas, if you're worried about getting them together, just buy some pizza. We had that last night. 7 young men showed up to share it with my son from the 2020 class. But I will tell you, in all the years that I've had a chance to be part of Great Hearts, and with many graduations behind us, I've never really seen a class that's had to endure the things you have. And you're the class of 2021 where COVID interrupted as juniors, masks as seniors, and everything in between. As Headmaster Washburn talked about, you were given the opportunity to either endure through COVID or to complain through it. And from all I've heard, you chose the latter. You could slough it off in all the confusion, or you could dig into the curriculum where there's so much life. And I know that as a class, you chose the patient, virtuous side and made the best out of a very difficult time. I applaud you for that. As a member of the board of directors, along with your parents, your teachers, the academy leaders, we are exceedingly proud of this class. I've been involved in I've been involved in commencement since 2007, and I can honestly say there are few classes that I can commend with such respect as I have for all of you this afternoon. You did not choose this moment. This moment providentially chose you, and a new sort of heroism asked of all of you. One of my favorite writers, C.S. Lewis, gave a speech at Oxford University in 1939 at the beginning of World War II, when the Nazi menace loomed large over Europe. He titled the talk, "Learning in Wartime." I shared this last year too. Here's what Lewis said. "I think it is important to try to see the present calamity in a true perspective. The war creates no absolutely new situation. It simply aggravates the permanent human situation so that we can no longer ignore it. Human life has always been lived on the edge of a precipice. Human culture has always had to exist under the shadow of something infinitely more important than itself. If men had postponed the search for knowledge and beauty until they were secure, the search would never have begun. We are mistaken when we compare war with normal life. Life never has been normal. This is a timely reminder from Lewis. While you have lived and are living through a very tumultuous time, almost a war against normal life, there springs opportunity to see the human condition more purely in how you addressed it. As I mentioned, you, the class of 2021, did not postpone the search for truth due to the present moment. Rather, you leaned in and accelerated through it. When a lesser freedom is taken away, the quest for a deeper freedom is revealed. The quest to become the virtuous man or woman you're called to be. For you Veritas Prep heroes, there should be no seeking of a new normal, but rather an acceptance of this discomfort and challenge that will push you forward to founding this culture that arises past this on the bedrock of truth and beauty and goodness. So Veritas Senior Class of 2021, on behalf of us parents, your Academy leadership and teachers, the Board of Directors, receive these diplomas as a sign of our hope for you, how you will redeem the times. We give you these highest honors as commissioned to strive together toward great things for yourselves and for us all. Headmaster Washburn.
Dylan Matthew Mojica, Africa. Ryan Hussein Alaso. Isaac Jose Alvarenga. Chloe Sophia Barrett. Kateri Therese Bautista. Ayana Sky Bindi Pereira. Beverly Lynn Blair. Landon Keikoa Briggs. Bernadette Ann Birch. Skylar Jacob Bernie. Lisa Marie Cardenas. Delma Yuridia Castellanos. Adolfo Omar Coronado. Grace Catherine Kosovich. Devin Charles Esser. Brandon Lorenzo Fajolo. Natalia Marie Flower. Christian Dennis Garcia Patrick. Mario Umberto Gaspa. Isabella Liliana Gulbranson. Katrin Elizabeth Haley. Eve Venita Haro. Kira Ruyi Hoskins. Kyle Douglas Irish. William James Jakubczyk. Ronald Max Johnson III. Mason Alexander Kaminsky. Ted Thomas Cannell. Karina Vladimir Kovalenko. Ashley Ruya Kuchik-Sadic. Sari Esther Lewis. Nicholas Paul Logan. Austin Cuauhtemoc Lopez. Anthony Lopez Delphine. Excarret Beatrice Luna. Hannah Gail Lytle. Harris Benjamin Lytle. Mary Gemma Elizabeth Marmol. Micah Nicole McAllister. Olive McKay Mayer. Jonathan William Morrison. Marina Megid Samuel Nasrallah. Serafina Fortunata Nibitonga. Jillian Grace Pietzel. Jacob Spencer Porter. Julia Noel Ramirez. Ian Joseph Ratsberg. Emily Grace Robbins. Nathaniel Hassett Brudesil. Jacob Sterling Sinatra Shemitz. Peter James Schillinger. Sarah Molly Sheraby. Michael Peter Shiras. Blaze Colby Pio Skikos. Sophie Margot Smith. Jacob Matthew Sobchak. Samuel Herbert Stipe. Alexa Grace Sullivan. Shanna K. Swardson. Nicholas Sorrell Sweeney. Ethan Samsonov Swanger. Tatiana Marie Tani. William Rutgers Van Brunt. Marco Alexander Vuletich. Evelyn Sophia Weinbrenner. Richard Zielinski. Jackson Michelle Zook. Samuel Brady Zook. Veritas Preparatory Academy Class of 2021, please stand. You may now move your tassels from right to left, signifying what you have accomplished. Congratulations. I now invite our seniors forward to sing their senior song under the direction of our talented Mrs. Resford.
As has already been shared this afternoon, this has been the most challenging year that we have as a nation and as a school faced in recent time. And like I said yesterday to all of you, I want you to carry something inside of yourself, and that is acknowledge that you are loved and that you're loved deeply. As Dr. Atalagbe said, life doesn't get easier after this. But if you carry that inside of yourself, all that you've been given, you will feel confidence to face the challenges that you will have to face. Please rise. I present to you the graduates of the class of 2021.